in the dwelling. Let's get it warm. This is where the pros come to play. Selling in the dwelling every day. Top experts, real talk straight from the tray. Selling in the dwelling, get paid.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Selling in the Dwelling, Episode 2. Your host here, Allan Langer, and I was so excited to wrap up the first episode with Matt Essler last week. And, you know, it's tough to follow up one good guest after another, but I think I accomplished that today. You're going to see the CEO of Ingage, Ingage, and I'm going to get to Dean in a second. But before we get to Dean as my second guest, I just want to remind you that the title sponsor of Selling in the Dwelling is Paradigm Vendo. And Paradigm is a software for the in-home selling industry, and they are a title sponsor. I'm very happy to have them and have a relationship with them. So more on them later on in the podcast. So the other thing to keep in mind is sellinginthedwelling.com is the website, and there's going to be a section on the website called Ask Allan. If you send in a question and I end up reading your question on the air to my guest, you will receive a signed copy of my book. So without further ado, I am very excited to introduce the CEO of Ingage, an awesome presentation software. Dean Curtis is joining us on Selling in the Dwelling. Dean, how are you today?
Awesome. Allan, thanks so much. I feel very honored to be one of your first guests on the new podcast. Thank you so much for having me.
You're awesome. You know, the one thing when I've been wanting to do this podcast for years. I had an initial podcast which was called Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails, which was a lot of fun, but I was kind of winging it, and I'm like, oh crap, I don't have a guest for this week, and I put filler guests in. I am very intentional with this one. I've got a sponsor, I've got a production company, and I want one great guest after another, and you immediately came to mind. So thanks for joining me, because ever since I saw Ingage, which was, I don't know how many years ago now, I was very impressed. When I was selling, I never loved the linear approach to sales presentations. I mean, it used to be the flip books, remember back then, and the flip books, and then it went to PowerPoint or, you know, just one screen after another. And you guys flipped that on its ear. So I want to talk about, where did Ingage come from? Who was the brainchild of it? I know you've been there about 9 years now or so, right?
I have been, yeah.
So give me a little background on where Ingage came from and the idea of turning the presentation portion of a sales process into what it is now that you guys do.
Yeah, like any great startup, it's accidental. So
Okay.
if you look back at the origin story of the company, and I'll spare you all of the details, but it goes back to 2008. And in 2008,
really? Wow.
if you remember technology in 2008, it was the iPhone, and the iPhone had no app store. And when the
Right.
App Store launched, it didn't have the ability to do what we now know very commonly is in-app purchase. And we were the company that made all the books for the App Store. So if you bought a book on your iPhone way back in 2008, you probably bought an app that we built for that publisher, because
No
every
kidding.
book was its own unique app. Well, the following year, Apple released this great new technology called in-app purchase, so you could have one app and purchase a bunch of books. So we were that app. The
Wow.
year after that, Apple released iBooks and basically took the business. So what we were building at the time was this idea of interactive experiences on touch devices. And then the company evolved from there, moved into magazines. Magazines then didn't really take off on the iPad. And then the company spent a lot of time as a digital agency building custom, unique experiences for iPad for Fortune 500 companies. So GE, GM,
Wow.
Apple, massive companies, pharmaceutical companies, earning that 1.5 minutes that they get with the doctor using a piece of technology that our company built. The problem was those things cost a ton of money. So literally $1 million apps in order to,
Wow.
enable a sales team with really rich interactive content. So ironically, at the time, I was actually working at Apple. So before I worked at ScrollMotion, our name of our company is actually ScrollMotion. We do business as Ingage now. I was part of a partner program at Apple, and we were looking for software partners, ISVs, who had great solutions that helped us sell more iPads. And we were partnered with Ingage, ScrollMotion, in order to bring their software to our channel. And we convinced them to build an app that allowed anybody to create the same great experience that they were charging $1 million literally to create. Could they build a piece of software so that the Allens and the Deans and the Sallys and the Jens of the world could actually build that same level of experience? That's where Engage was born.
Wow, that's fascinating. So I want to not digress, but I want to go deeper into your past because I was looking at your LinkedIn profile as I should as a podcast host and do my homework. You were at Palm. Is that Palm Pilot?
Yeah, yeah.
Was that the
So
old Palm Pilot?
my tech career was basically, so I was a teacher before that, and then my tech career started at Oracle. A lot of people know Oracle, big database software.
Yeah.
I went to a small company called IntelliSync, and we were building apps for all kinds of different businesses on Palm Pilots, and that led me to Palm, Palm to
Oh, I
Apple,
see.
and then Apple to where I am today.
Wow. So Palm is no longer around, correct? I'm
No,
assuming.
Palm got purchased by HP actually right after I
Okay.
left.
I love the story. I forget what movie it was, but it was one of those tech movies where they show the history of tech and things and how BlackBerry refused to believe that people wanted to touch a screen rather than hit buttons. And the story was about how Apple just literally destroyed BlackBerry and killed that entire market. And that's what I was thinking with Palm. Wasn't Palm like didn't it have like a little stylus, if I
It
remember
did,
correctly? Yeah, yeah.
did.
So
Well, what's
interesting
interesting
stuff.
is the team that I was on at Apple was the team that was brought together in order to combat BlackBerry in the enterprise.
No
And my
kidding.
whole career at Apple of 8 years was designed from the beginning was we were the iPhone and business team. We would go out to Fortune 500 companies, collect the requirements so we would could better understand what the requirements were to really live on a corporate network. And within 2 years, we went from 0% penetration to 97% penetration in the Fortune 500. And that was very impactful to the future of BlackBerry.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. So it sounds like you have a little sales experience in your background.
I do. You know, it's interesting. I was actually on the technical side of the sales team my entire career. So I was the nerd the sales team brought in to explain
Yeah.
the detailed architecture of Oracle and how Palm devices and Apple devices integrate with a business network. So my background is actually technical, even though now I'm on the business side as the CEO of a company.
Yeah. And I got to tell you, I really like what you're doing. I'm impressed because you are putting yourself out there as the face of the company. At least that's my impression from where I'm sitting. You're doing, these 30, 40-second, clips on LinkedIn,
Yep.
and you're just talking about sales. And a lot of CEOs don't do that. A lot of CEOs want to be in the background and let everyone else do that. Did you make a conscious decision to do that, to kind of like become the face of the company and start posting like you are?
I did. So I have a business coach. I think getting a coach and being coached is one of the best things. And about 2 years ago, I started with a business coach, and one of his daily non-negotiables is posting on social media and
Wow.
building the personal brand. And not because I want to be some great influencer. Totally not what I'm trying to
Yeah.
do. But if I have information that I know and that I believe to be true, and I hold it to myself and don't share it with the people who follow me on social media, it's selfish. So
Hmm.
he encouraged me to do it and encouraged everyone in our coaching program to do it. And it's focused me in a way where I now listen way better because I'm always looking for ideas on what to share.
Sure.
And the conversations I have with our customers, with our partners, with people like you, like they inspire me to say, wait, I know something. And or you and I'll have a conversation and be like, wow, I never heard of that. Well, that's common to me. Well, I better share it with everybody else because maybe somebody else could use it as well. So
Yeah.
there's no ulterior motive. It's literally if I know something and I keep it to myself, I don't want to be selfish. I want to share it out there. And maybe someone will benefit. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll think bad of me. I don't know. I don't care. I
Well,
probably wouldn't
yeah,
ask their opinion about anything else anyway. So
exactly. And
let it
and you're
be.
probably learning as you're doing this because I've been doing this now for a little while. But when I first started, I'm like, I started my business and I got to get on social media. And I remember it took me, you know, an hour and a half to do a 1 minute video because I kept going back and editing and deleting and editing. And now, you realize that just do it. Like,
Totally.
it's progress over perfection is one of my favorite terms. And now I can literally pick up my phone, talk into it, and post it. And I don't, it just goes because it's easy. And once you get to that point, and again, I need to do it to post content and have kind of be top of mind, but also like you're saying, I want to share this. I want to talk about these things that I just thought of because I think it could help someone else.
Totally. And
Yeah.
also, part of it too is if I'm wrong or if somebody has an alternate opinion, I want to hear it.
Yeah.
Maybe I want to test the thinking that I have because I don't know everything. 100% don't know everything. So if you ever see something, you're like, hey, I disagree, or let's have that conversation. I think
Absolutely.
discourse is lost in so many ways in our culture today.
Yeah.
I'm happy to open those loops with people and we have really productive conversations.
Yeah, it's really awesome. It's awesome to see you out there, and I'm glad you're doing it. It's like, you think of famous companies. You automatically, if they did it right, you think of the CEO. You think of the Steve Jobs, the Lee Iacocca. I mean, I think he was one of the first ones to really get out there as the CEO of Chrysler back in the day. So yeah, kudos to you. I'm impressed, and I look forward to watching your stuff continually. So
Thank you. I appreciate that.
no problem. So talk to me a little bit about most of your, I would say the majority of your customers, clients are in-home sales remodeling companies, I would assume, right?
That's right. We decided, so we didn't intend to go in that direction. When I
Oh,
say it was
really? Okay.
accidental, we didn't build the software intentionally for home improvement, home remodeling. We were going after lots of different markets. We looked at the in-home beauty market, actually.
Mm-hmm.
We looked at real estate. We looked at retail. We did a whole bunch of different market research, and we went and did pilots and trials and these things. It took us about 3 years to find product market fit. And we were very fortunate. A home improvement company requested a demo on our website. We showed up in, their SEO search for alternate to PowerPoint.
Okay.
And it was New Pro in Boston. We'll always be
Ah,
thankful
okay.
for Nikki and his team up in Boston. And they came in. We helped them get a great in-home sales presentation in Ingage to their sales reps. And before we knew it, they introduced us to 9 of their friends. And
There
then
you go.
they introduced us to a couple of building product manufacturers because they were all using the same stuff. They were all installing the same things. And then before we knew it, we had 100. And we were like, I think we found our market. And we
Yeah.
decided at that moment to simply focus on home improvement and be great for the home improvement in-home sale. And now we're 100% focused on that, and that's the customers that we serve. No real intention of just jumping out to some other vertical. Our plan is to expand around the home. So if you
Yeah.
look at other things in the home, HVAC, plumbing, different home services, great model for us. But yeah, home improvement is where we live.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I got involved with you or became a partner with you quite a while ago now, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I've loved how you evolved because you used to be doing a certain thing. When I first saw it, I thought it was amazing because it just wasn't something like that wasn't out there. I was always trying to play with my own presentation that I had. Then I saw you guys, and then I remember speaking with a few of the people that work for you about the design and pricing structure, and you guys were always so open, like, let's hear it. We want some ideas because you're in the home. You're doing it. And
Yeah.
so that is one thing that's always impressed me about all the people that work. No one was ever like, nah, that's not a, that's that we tried, that didn't work or whatever. It was always really good stuff, open to new ideas, which obviously comes from the top.
Well, we have 3 core values at our company: value focused, problem solver, and customer first. So all of our team members are focused on those 3 things. So value focus is not, do you have values? It's, are you looking at the value of the time and the resources that we spend? The problem solver is, are you really creatively looking at problems that people bring to you, or are you just putting old thinking against it? We don't want that. We want
Yeah.
true problem solvers. And then the core of it all is what matters most to the customer, because we could create all these great ideas. And I think this is actually almost what doomed our company before we made the pivot to Engage. We had all these amazing ideas, but guess what? If no one's willing to pay you money to have those ideas in your product, you're
Yeah.
not going to survive, right?
Exactly.
So listening to our customers and being customer first is the core of everything we do.
Yeah. And it's wild because, well, talk to me about how you got the concept of the nonlinear sales process, because
Yeah.
that's something that you had to be intentional about rather than saying, let's just come up with a pretty software program.
Yeah, that goes back to some of cutting our teeth in enterprise, especially with pharmaceutical reps. So some of the earliest pieces of content that we built were for pharma reps. If you think about their world, You've probably been to the doctor, and there's that poor sucker who's sitting there in a seat. They got a bag of bagels or something for the office staff, and they're just waiting for that 3-minute break that the doctor gets to actually go pitch them the latest drug.
Right,
You've
right,
seen this.
exactly.
We've all seen this while we're
We've
waiting
all
at the
seen it.
doctor.
I had a best friend who was a farm rep for many years.
Well, if you think about that experience, they have to be able to answer the question from that physician at a moment's notice. They don't have time to do death by slide deck for
Right.
16 pages to get to the point. The physician's going to ask them a question that may be, somewhere else, and they need to very quickly be able to navigate through all the content that they've been trained on in order to answer that question and show that thing that's most important. I think that happens in home improvement as well, because
Oh
while we
yeah.
teach sales systems and we know that the 5 steps or the 7 steps or whatever it happens to be is the right way to do it, all of that falls apart when the prospect asks a question that they want to have the answer to before you move on. And being able to move dynamically through the content that you have, I almost hesitate, by the way, to call us a presentation platform. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
of it more like the ultimate sales tool that you have that allows you to bob and weave as the needs arise with the prospect that's sitting in front of you, to educate them, to answer their questions, to build confidence, and to eventually close them, obviously,
Right.
and to build that trust with the client in the most productive way possible. And we think through interactive content, dynamic navigation, that's a great way to do it, because you can respond in the moment to exactly what the client on the other side of the table is asking.
And it's actually, I think as we move along, your platform is going to become even more integral and important in the selling world today, because sales has been changing now, and it's vastly different than it even was 5 years ago, especially the customers. You know, customers don't even want to meet with salespeople, and like, they literally, like, they don't they their first, what the first Google search is right now? It's not contractors near me, it's how much are windows near me. Like, people are looking for pricing now
That's
before
right.
they contact. So all of this stuff, they want a great experience. And that's what you guys are doing. You're coming up with, you're not the typical sales experience. And what I love about, I'm going to I'll tell you a quick story about how so many sales reps are stuck in a process sometimes, and that's not going to be successful anymore. The rep that has a higher EQ are the ones that are going to be successful. I went on a ride along. This was about 2 months ago. Obviously, won't name the company, but I was with a rep, and we got in, and within about 4 minutes, the homeowner, the husband, said, "Can you tell me about how this is installed?" You know what the rep said? "I'll get to that in 45 minutes." I wanted to
I
kick him
mean,
under the table.
well, what's the homeowner thinking for the next 45 minutes?
Yeah, like, this is what I was
Nothing else. They're
expecting.
like, I
Yeah,
just want to know how it's installed. Because if you could answer that question and it's the third section, like, not even pitching what we do, like, if you can knock that objection out right away or give them,
yeah,
it's not even an objection, it's comfort, it's
yeah.
confidence, right? Because maybe they've already had 3 people in their home and none of them could really tell them the process. But if you have a time lapse video that shows the first step in the home and then the last step at the punch list is done, and I mean, you're
It
educating,
and
you're
again, and
giving
then you can
comfort,
still go through your process after you do it, but you got to be nimble within the process, and that's what I love about what you guys do, because that's
yeah,
how I sold. I knew the 5 or 6 things I had to talk about, but I never talked about them in a specific order. I basically let the customer dictate how they wanted to hear information, and I
yeah.
always thought, I was a pretty successful salesperson, so I thought that worked. So tell me, for the folks who don't know Engage at all,
Mm-hmm.
never heard of you. I own a small contracting company. I do 4 million in revenue. I've got 5 sales reps. Tell me why I should look at Engage.
It's a great question. I think there's a few things that when you have 5 sales reps, you start to have a few different things that happen. Number one, you have no idea if they're delivering consistently in the home, right? Maybe you're recording calls, but you really don't know visually what they're presenting or how they're representing your company visually in the home. Maybe you've trained them on a company story and you've trained them on how to position financing, you've trained them on the products that you offer. But without a codified, I use this word all the time, a codified set of materials that they
Hmm.
can speak from, right? In the past, it was a flip book and but you would never know, did they ever get to page 7?
Yeah.
So you want to know, I think at that level, you want to know what's working. What are they actually sending out? What are they actually using in the home with that prospective client? And the problem that we help solve is that on the iPad that you've bought for them or that they've brought and you've enabled, they now have a downloaded presentation, always available, always up to date. So you don't have to worry, did they go to the office and grab the latest version? Have they connected to, like, you don't have to worry about that. If they're connected to the internet at some point in the last 24 hours, they're going to have access to the
Going to be
latest
updated.
content. It's going to be updated. And then we're tracking every tap, swipe in that presentation to know what path did Allan go through and close the deal, and what path did Dean go through and close the deal or not close the
Or
deal.
no, yeah.
How many of them actually presented financing? How many
Right.
presented, how many used the content? I don't want to say present, like the idea of sitting there and droning through pages in a presentation is over. No one wants that. But knowing that they used the collateral that you provided them for 25 minutes, which is the on target time for them to use the supporting materials in a sales call, whatever that time is. Yours could be an hour, yours could be 5 minutes. I don't know. It depends on
Right.
what you're doing. So it's that amazing content, all of the plumbing to make sure people get what they need, when they need it, where they need it, and then the analytics to understand how it's being used when actually in that face-to-face conversation. I mean, you mentioned earlier you went on a ride along. I'm not saying this kills ride-alongs altogether. I don't think it should. There's tremendous value. I actually go visit with our customers and ride along to see how they're using Engage in the
Oh, you do? Really? That's
field, right?
wild.
And so there's still value that, but imagine if you could do a replay of every single session that they use the Engage content for, or any whatever you have, so you could know the path they took, how long they spent, what they showed. Super valuable. So it's that
Super valuable. Yeah.
amazing content, the sharing capability to make sure the team has everything they need, and then the analytics on the back end to prove and coach. Like, you're a coach, you
Yeah.
want to review the film. Well, I can bring up analytics and compare everyone on the team and see how much they're using the content we provide them, where they're using it the most, what pages they're not using. Like,
Yeah.
all of that is available. Great coaching tool. Not only because I always say this because it's so important. I think people look at analytics and are like, oh, wow, you're watching me. Yeah,
Right.
because I want to see how you're successful and how you're not successful. And then we can coach so that you can be ultimately successful. Or maybe you discovered a great way to do something that we
Hmm.
need to teach everybody else. So it's not always a negative when you think about that.
And it's also fascinating because you guys coordinate or line up or whatever the term is, integrate with Rilla, right?
We do.
So now you got the verbal recording analyzed by AI. Now you got, what the rep is doing from, your software, the presentation software.
Yeah.
And I mean, what a tremendous coaching tool. But here's how I look at it. I get, people saying, especially sales managers at companies, they don't know how to present. Like, let's say Rilla, for example, and for folks that don't know Rilla, it's a recording software that records a sales conversation, and then it actually analyzes AI. But every sales rep, when they see it, thinks it's Big Brother watching them, just like you mentioned.
Yeah.
Well, that's not how you have to introduce it. You have to introduce it. This is for you to listen to yourself to get better. And Engage is the same way. I want to see, oh crap, I forgot to hit this page here while we were saying that. Why didn't I hit that page? Then you can get better because you're watching what you did. It's amazing when that's recorded and you hear yourself. You realize, oh my God, I said that, or I sounded like an idiot there, or I should have asked a question here. I
Yeah.
did that. I joke with Sebastian, the CEO of Rilla, that he stole my idea because years ago, when the smartphone first came out, I'd hit record and put the phone in my pocket, and I'd listen on my way home to my sales calls, and I got better. It was very simple.
I mean,
So-
name one NFL quarterback who doesn't watch film.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the same
Even the
concept.
center, like everybody. Why do sports teams intensely watch film? Because
Yeah,
it tells the story.
and it
Good or
makes them better.
bad, it
Yeah.
tells the story and makes you better.
Yeah, so it's the same concept, and I like that you brought that up because I don't think a lot of people realize that your software not only takes the mundane linear presentation out of it, but it's a tracking tool as well, so you can actually get better as a
That's
rep
right.
once you look at it. So I
Well,
think
and you
that's a great point.
mentioned integration with Rilla, right? So it's so powerful to to see what you were showing when you said what you said.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
if in the Rilla console, you can, if you have it integrated with Engage, and Zero is the same way, you can actually see a thumbnail of what was displayed on the iPad when the words are when they
Oh,
see the word.
really? I didn't know
Oh yeah,
that. Oh, that's really cool.
yeah,
That's very cool. I love it. I love it. Hey, dwellers, quick break. Hey, did you know that the closing percentages for in-home sales has been dropping consistently over the last 10 years? It's really crazy, and there's a lot of reasons for it. But one of them is reps have so much to do in the house because there's so many different platforms that you're jumping back and forth all the time. Well, my title sponsor, Paradigm Vendo, takes care of that. In one digital platform, you can go from initial appointment right to final sale and signatures by visiting just their platform. It's amazing. You got to check them out. It's paradigmvendo.com/dwelling, PARADIGM vendo.com/dwelling, because your reps need to give the homeowners a great experience in the house, and jumping around doesn't do that. Visit paradigmvendo.com/dwelling and take care of the experience your reps are giving in the house. So tell me, okay, so now let's put your CEO hat on for a second, away from your product hat. How many people are working at Engage, and what is your, I have a feeling I know the answer to this, but what's your leadership style? How do you get the most out of your employees, people to get fired up about what they're doing? Give me a little bit about background about Dean as the CEO.
yeah. I appreciate the question because I think as a tech leader, we're not just a bunch of nerds writing code and sending it out. I'm very intentional with my leadership style. I'll give you an example, and then so every other week I hold what I call leadership lab, and I teach a leadership principle to the company through experience and storytelling. And
Right.
then the opposite weeks, I have an AMA or an Ask Me Anything with the company to just basically open my Zoom, and anybody in the company can come and ask me questions about what's going on in the company. So
No
my
kidding. That's
lead
fascinating.
my leadership style is I try to be as transparent as I can possibly be. I
Right.
think any leader knows there's things that the timing just has to be the timing for certain modes of communication and pieces of information. That's just the way it is. I
Right.
try and balance that. I also try to be super approachable, which is also hard because I'm moving and I have a vision for the company of where I want us to be in 3 years. And sometimes I have to go off and do things that are tough and
Yeah.
really difficult decisions or conversations that I want to have with a certain partner that I'm not ready to tell everybody about yet because one, it may not happen, but those
Right.
things.
Right.
I'll sum it up this way. My job is to build the people and the people build the business. That's how I think about it. And that's an evolution for me over the
Love
last
that.
couple of years. I think my first 7 years here was let me roll up my sleeves and muscle through, which was needed at the growth stage that we were at. But where we are now, in order to get over this next growth ceiling to the where we want to be in the next 3 years, it's really about building people and spending time literally. So I have my vivid vision for the company, and in that vision, I have it split up into three equal parts. One part is building and coaching my team. One part is meeting with people who are not in my business, who are doing things where I want to be and go learn from them. And then the third is working with our customers. And I say that last, but that one has to be first. So if
Yeah.
I'm spending a third of my time understanding our customers, a third of my time building my team and coaching my team and working alongside my team, and then a third out in the world learning from other experts, that to me is the perfect blend of a CEO's time.
It's tremendous stuff. And, you know, not to bring up Steve Jobs again, but he said, you know, Apple's success comes from I hire smarter people than me. Like I'm not the smartest guy at the company. I don't want to be. I don't want to be the smartest guy in the room. I hire people who can do the stuff that I can't. And I
Yep.
think that's what the real smart CEOs do, because the ones with big egos have a tough time, I think.
The most famous Steve quote, and so working at Apple, I was two levels below Steve. So like my boss reported to a guy who reported to Steve. So it's a very flat organization. So you have I never got into like face-to-face conversations with Steve, but the influence is definitely there. He
Yeah,
would
yeah, yeah.
always say, I don't hire people and tell them what to do. I hire people to tell us what to do because
Yes.
they have the knowledge, they have the skills, they have the experience that are going to help us grow. I try to do the same in our business.
Yeah, that's tremendous. So, what do you see in the future, as we're evolving in-home selling? I mean, I have my thoughts on this, and are you seeing any trends or anything that you any predictions that salespeople meeting people in the homes, where you see that going in the next 5 years?
Now I always put my tech nerd lens on this because I love technology, right? On my weekends, I'm writing apps with AI because I'm just so interested in that. So it's hard for me to not answer the question in terms of technology
Sure.
because I truly believe those who can leverage the latest technology, and we could have a whole conversation about AI right now, but it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. It's always been that who can take the modern technology and apply it to the problems that you have in your business and solve those problems as quickly as possible to gain efficiency, to gain cost savings. Like that equation has never changed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The equation is the same. The technology is different. So as
Right.
I look at it, like what's the future? The future is still, it's the same as it was 10 years ago. Who can look at the modern technology, understand the problems of your business, and apply that technology in a really logical way to accelerate your growth, accelerate your throughput, accelerate the value your people bring. I think there's a lot of concern that, the newest of the technology is going to replace people. I'm always I'm okay with that because I think I
Yeah.
can have those humans do higher value work, um,
Right.
because the technology is an enabler. It's not a replacement.
It's been a fascinating thing for me because one of my I do a lot of research. I look at a lot of studies. I love doing that. Look at a lot of trends, and the one study I saw that's been eye opening to me over the last, I think it was 7 months ago I saw it, was that I think Cornell did this. It said that 68% of consumers will spend more money on a better experience over a better product.
Mm,
And to me, I see that happening. Like people now want the experience. They're literally about 80% done with their buying journey before they even contact a company. And
mm,
now they're saying, okay, I'm going to choose one of these three. Now I'm going to call the company and they're going to make their decision on the experience they had with that sales rep. And that's where a product like yours comes in because it's a great experience rather than the flip book or the guy that's going through the ABCDE sales process.
yeah. No, I think that's a great point. We actually recently renamed our customer success team to our customer experience team
Yeah.
because we value so much the experience that people have with our software and with our team that we wanted to be front and center. It's just as simply in the titles that we put in our business cards and in our email signatures.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So what do you look? I'll ask you one more question, then we'll get to the Ask Alan segment. So what do you look for when you're hiring your own salespeople? Are you looking for any specific trait or anything? Is it a high EQ? Are there certain things you do that you didn't do at a different company? Like what is you as Dean and Engage do when you're hiring your own salespeople?
I would apply this to virtually anyone we hire, and that is the desire and the curiosity factor that they have.
Oh, that's interesting.
We, you know, I can only teach someone so many things. And what I really want are curious team members who push us in ways that we didn't even see possible. So if my leadership style, which we talked about earlier, is to build the people who build the business, if I have people who are simply waiting for me to tell them what to do, that's not going to work
Mm,
because me building them is not giving them a playbook that says do these 5 things every single time.
right.
Me building them up is to give them frameworks, give them ideas, and let them run with them. And it's not like go run with scissors. It's run in a, in a safe way where they feel supported. And I'll give you a framework that I use for this, and it totally defines the type of person that I want on our team. I call it the 10-80-10 principle. So I want the team member to take ownership of 80% of what they do. I'm
Okay.
happy to help them with the first 10%. We ideate, we define what done looks like, but I want them to go off and be curious and build the rest of it. And then we'll come back together at the end and we'll finish it. But if I have to tell somebody 80% and they're only bringing 20% value, that's not the person I want on our team. I want
No.
someone who can take that direction and we can brainstorm and ideate and give them what we consider the definition of done. And then they come back, they go do all the work. They're super curious. They leverage the resources. They're collaborative. They're adaptable. All of those things. That's the kind of person I want. Whether it's a salesperson, customer success, engineer, those are the people I want because I can't tell them everything. I want them
No,
to
you
be
can't.
super curious. And what's cool about AI rewards the curious. So if I hire these people and they use the tools that we enable them with, they're supercharged. It's amazing.
Yes. Awesome. Well, that's great. The 10-80-10. I love that. It's almost like it reminds me of coaching. I coach my daughter's softball team, and I want them to not have to look at me every single second of what to do when they're in the batter's box. Like, be yourself, hit the ball. If I want you to bunt, I'll tell you to bunt. But other than that, be aggressive on the base pass, stuff like that. And some players can't do it, or some players just thrive in that. So it's just,
Yeah.
it's obviously up to the person. So interesting stuff. Good stuff there. All right. We're ready for the Ask Allan segment. And again, since you're the second guest on my podcast, the question I'm going to ask you is the same question I asked Matt Essler in last week's episode. And it's this one. You've been a CEO now for a while. You've been in business for a while. You've been doing this a long time. You go into a coffee shop and you meet a 26-year-old energetic entrepreneur. What advice would you give him or
Oh man.
her?
Admit you don't know what you don't know.
Oh,
I
I love
think
that.
I think one of the things that I did way too much early in my entrepreneurial journey and my journey as a CEO is to believe that I could find and do and answer anything just by working harder. And I think work smarter, not harder is a cliche, but it's totally true.
Hmm.
And find people who are in the room where you aspire to be someday and go sit in that room and be humble and vulnerable to say, I don't know what I'm doing, but I know you are where I want to be. Would you
Mm,
mentor me? Ask for help because it's not a sign of weakness. It's actually a massive sign of strength to say, I know what I don't know, but I see you doing that thing or in that room or being at that point where I want to be. I want to learn from you. Would you? And I guarantee there's somebody out there, there's tons of people out there who are willing to help. And in this industry, especially, it's like no other industry I've ever been in. There
yeah.
are mentor upon mentor out there, whether it's a paid coaching program mastermind, or if it's literally you call someone up and say, hey, I have this problem. I know you've been successful. Would you give me 30 minutes? That's the advice I would give. Never be afraid to pick up the phone and make that call and admit where you're weak and go get somebody who's already done it.
It's brilliant advice. And people asked me when I had my first podcast, I got a good handful of really decent guests, and they, I would always get, how did you get that guest? And I said, I asked. Simply, I went up and I asked. Like, so many people are afraid to do something as simple. It's like asking for the order. They run a great sales presentation, then they never ask the customer to buy. It's the same concept. You just gotta ask and do it. The worst they can say is no, and you
That's
move
right.
on.
And
You
if
know,
they do, great. There's so many people out there who are willing to spend their time. Yeah, I think there is a moment of humility that you have to accept to say, okay, I'm going to put my ego on the shelf. I don't know the
yeah,
answer to this and formulate a really good question. Do your research. Don't go in unprepared for sure. But those people who have been there and have done it, they want to share their wisdom.
they
Everyone
do.
does.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, Dean. Well, this has been awesome. I really appreciate you coming on. And before we wrap up, tell all the people in the audience that are now salivating to look at Engage. Where do they go? And is it just going to the website and clicking a demo, or how do they go from here?
Yeah, the best thing to do is go to our website, ingage.io, ingage.io. There's a get a demo button there. If you look through the website and it looks like it's something that might help you and your sales team, help your business, by all means, get on with our team. No pressure demo. We literally just love showing because seeing is believing with
Yeah,
Engage. Sometimes you have to see it. And then for me personally, I'm posting a ton on LinkedIn. Come and follow me on LinkedIn as well as Instagram. Dean Curtis 23 on Instagram. I love connecting with people there. It's a great place it's kind of the outside of work place to see
yeah,
like because I lived my whole life on there, not crazy influencery, but I share about my fitness journey. I share stuff that I do as a family because we're more than just our job title. And that's a
Yes.
great place to get to know me as well.
And and just to piggyback on what you just said, people want to know about you as a human, not just as the CEO. Like I just posted about my trip to Colorado with my daughter. I took her with me on a training event that I had, and I got the most engagement I've had in a couple months simply because it was like, oh, he has a daughter and he took her to college visits on one of his trainings things. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's super important that what you're doing, and I agree with it. So anyway, this has been awesome, Dean. I really thank you, and I also want to thank the folks at Paradigm Vendo for their sponsorship. Visit them at paradigmvendo.com/dwelling. And then you can check out their software, and also Ingage, INGAGE.io, if you want to take a look at Dean's incredible software platform as well. Dean, thank you very much. I will talk to you again, my friend. And thank
Sounds
you
good.
for
Thanks,
joining
Alan.
me on episode 2 of Selling in the Dwelling. Take care, everybody.